raining like crazy out there. I hope people can't hear this rain.
It's raining sideways.
You know, it's days like this that I used to enjoy stovetop stuffing until I discovered the magic in magic stuffing, or stuffing magic.
That was when Kroger was of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Wow. Stuff has like beef broth flavor. What are we talking about? We're talking about graphics cards.
That's for an upcoming unboxing, you guys. I know you can't wait.
Yeah, this stuff is it's still in the box from the 70s. We've got some crazy hardware to talk about. Actually, all hardware should be crazy.
But this is really crazy, even for us.
When you have crazy stuff like a GTX 780, especially a direct CU2 model from Asus with the fancy heat pipes and everything, you have to push things to their limit. So we got 3 1440p monitors, and we mixed them all up. We've got a Dell, we've got a Shimeon, and we've got an X-Star.
Well, we did that on purpose.
Yeah. So we could see the differences. You see the difference in contrast. You can look at them and see if one refresh rate is better than the other. You can feel the heat coming off of each of them.
The Dell Ultra Sharp.
I love these Korean monitors because they're like $300. The X-Star you can find those online for like $280 right now. So if you want a 1440p monitor for your fancy graphics card, in fact, these 760s, there's one laying on the table over there. The 760 is surprisingly ridiculously fast at 1440p. So if you're looking for like a small, cheap, like $250 beast to play 1440p games with one of your Korean monitors, 760, Korean monitor, marriage, life together, happy ever after.
This is really surprising because we actually tested the 760 against a 670, and at 1080p, the 670 is better, but at 1440p, the 760 is much better.
We've got a comparison video on those two coming up very soon. But in this video, we're going to have a little bit of fun with those 3 monitors. So we tested a few different games, and Wendell, you were not here for this. I did the testing myself. A lot of people criticize me, because, like people were saying, hey, you don't do your own testing. I do some of the testing. Pistol does some of the testing. We have an intern do the testing. We supervise all the tests. And, anything that I do is the same as anything that Pistol does.
Especially when we get results that are funny, we all end up redoing all of the tests.
Yeah, like,
so
hey, that's funny.
Everyone is like, oh, that's weird.
It's like, when you wear this many hats, there's a lot of things going on. So when you do have time to do benchmarks, it better be 3 1440p displays. That's 7680 by 1440.
And before you think that is ridiculous, we did it a slightly less ridiculous way.
Yeah, if you put 3 of them just side by side, horizontally, it's too wide. It's so wide that you're like...
No one has that much peripheral vision.
I mean, it would be good if you're in one of those cockpits or whatever and you tilt them sideways, or if you're in one of those NASCAR things. But yeah, you do not have enough peripheral vision, and you're just wasting speed. So if you turn them vertically and put them side by side, it's almost 4:3, not quite, but then it's 1440 by 7680, and it made me dizzy because I'm sitting so close. Playing Rise of the Triad like that was pretty ridiculous. I had a lot of trouble aiming. You're going to see me missing everybody. I had a lot of trouble aiming because I was sitting way to the left. I'm making an excuse right now. You hear me just making this excuse? I'm sitting like way in front of the left monitor and like leaning so that the camera could see all 3 of them. I'm trying to lean out of the way. But my brain kept trying to aim on the left monitor, and I was like, oh, wait, the middle monitor. I was just going cross-eyed. But it was a lot of fun. And in Trine, it was so awesome seeing the character that large on the screen, because when you have like a vertical resolution like that, or a more vertical resolution like that, the characters are just so much bigger. So it was a lot of fun playing like that. You guys want to talk about benchmarks?
Yeah, let's talk. Well,
let's talk about how we tested and all that.
Yeah, I want to also say that we've done this before with the 1080p monitors, but 1080p is just not wide enough. So we did it with 1440, and the screen being that much wider, having that much more pixels, actually made a pretty big difference.
I would actually use a setup like this if I could debezel them and wrap them all in like one nice black bezel all the way around. Maybe curve it a little bit. I enjoyed, especially just like being in Windows on that giant screen. Typically, I hate being in Windows when you have to, when it's an SLI or an NVIDIA Surround, or I almost said SLI Infinity. When it's an NVIDIA Surround or Infinity. I don't even know. I'm not cut out for this. If it's like stretched across all of them, I can't stand it. It's kind of annoying. You have to like always switch Infinity or NVIDIA Surround on and off every time you want to play a game. But like this, I could actually use the desktop, have the 4 quadrants. It just feels natural. Anyway, let's get into some benchmarks. We benchmarked it with 2 of these because using one of these would have been fun but silly.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not fast enough. Trine might have been fast enough, and Bioshock Infinite maybe, but I wanted to turn the settings up. So Let's take a look at Crysis 3, 7680 by 1440. I might have said 7860, but I don't earlier, but it's 7680. Anyway, running Crysis 3 on very high anti-aliasing on, and all the other filters turned off. 23.96 frames per second.
Kind of rough.
Yeah, it's a bit rough. So what I did was I turned it down to medium and the textures and the system spec. So medium textures and medium system spec, and I left the filters all off. Now like that, the game actually looks surprisingly good like that. And when you have that many pixels, I mean, smoothing the actual pixels out, that really doesn't make that big of a difference. You can still see some jaggies here and there, but it's not as bad as you would think. It's not like when you're stretching 1080p to a 1440 display or 720p, stretching that out. You really need the filters for that. But like this, I don't think I really needed the filters that much, and it still looks better than most games. 44.4 frames per second.
Yeah,
it was, and that was. I benchmarked this thing in like the most stressful environment. The part where it's outside when you're first playing the game and all the rain is coming. As soon as you hit the bridge to go follow Psycho, that's where I start my benchmark, and the benchmark lasts usually up until we reach the building. If you play the game, you know what I'm talking about right there.
This 7680 by 1440, I just want to point out, is 11 megapixels. These two 780s are pushing 11 megapixels of resolution.
44 times per second. So if we had two of these in a camera, we could shoot 11 megapixel raw images.
Yeah.
44 per second. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, pretty
Sports
much.
photographers are going to be strapping these to their cameras. just wait and see. Now, trying to graphics very high and FXAA. So that's medium on the filters, and FXAA looks pretty damn good if you ask me. The average was 84.64 frames per second, and the lowest was 78 frames per second. I also want to mention on the Crysis benchmark, it never dropped below 36. So that's extremely playable, but I'm trying never dropping below 78 all the way throughout the benchmark on those three screens.
I'm having dollar bill sized characters.
They were huge characters. I've never, like, those little characters have so much detail that you are not able to appreciate on your regular horizontal screens. When you blow them up and play on like the vertical screen like that, it's a totally different experience. They did a hell of a job. Bioshock Infinite. Maximum settings. Everything maxed out DirectX 11. We did the standard benchmark where it just goes through several different scenes. The average was 41.44, but it did drop down during the town center to 16.61. That was the low. And then the maximum was 214. So there was a lot of up and down with this. This might be because we were using the version 3.2, I believe it. I'll put it on the screen, 3.20 drivers. 3.26 beta are out as of the making of this video, and I have not tried that one because I don't want to set up all three monitors again. I was here till like 4 in the morning. It was ridiculous.
I think I was here for part of the benchmarking with Bioshock, if I remember, and it seemed like it was playable.
Yeah, it was playable. I think a lot of the hitches came like near some of the scene switches.
Yeah.
So that was. We'll throw the chart on the website so you guys can see the ups and downs. If you know the Bioshock benchmark, if you have Bioshock Infinite, you can go and run the benchmark and then look and then you'll look at our benchmark and be like, oh, I know where it dropped down and then where it went back up. So.
Well, and again, 11 megapixels.
Yeah. I would actually use this. I mean, like for a second there, I was thinking, I could just order 2 more of these screens and then have 3 of them. But if I was going to do it for myself, I'd probably want 3 of the same display.
Yeah, it should be 3 of the same. And 3 with very small bezel. Those cheap Korean monitors. The brand changes every week because we don't know.
Yeah, some of them have the Samsung, some of them have the LG panel.
And the challenging thing there, too, is that where they've got the DVI input, you'll need an active DisplayPort to dual-link DVI adapter, which is kind of a rare critter.
And they may be a little bit expensive, so just use DVI. If you've got an extra dual-link DVI port on your graphics card, that's what I would do. What did you think about the 3 different monitors? Which one was your favorite?
The display on the Dell had a lot more blur to it than I've really noticed before, because those are sort of my day monitors, my work monitors, and
those are not really made for gaming.
No, they're not really made for gaming at all. But they've got a lot of inputs: DisplayPort, HDMI, DVI, and the X-Star has that anti-glare coating, and it was still really sharp. It wasn't quite as sharp as the
Shimeon is definitely sharper.
Yeah, the Shimeon is definitely sharper, but it's got a really bad glare.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I thought the X-Star did have the best contrast and color, and it had a smooth quality in the games. I mean, this is just my own personal opinion. If you want probably the brightest and the overall sharpest, I thought the Shimeon did a really good job. But my eyes were most pleased when looking at the X-Star. Response time on the X-Star is a little bit higher than that of the Shimeon. And while playing games, I could not tell a difference. Like watching one monitor and then watching the other. Playing Rise of the Triad, playing Bioshock, playing Trine.
Even on the Dell, which has a comparatively high input latency because it's got a processor.
I couldn't tell a difference. And there's got to be some science behind this, but a lot of it is starting to feel like marketing hype to me, and all the guys out there that are making the 2 millisecond response time displays are going to hate me and never send any more monitors for us to play with. But I don't know. I didn't see any ghosting.
What we need to do is write a program, get one of our old CRTs.
Yeah.
I've got some amazing Silicon Graphics workstation CRTs, the gold standard of CRTs. We need to haul one of those things out, set this Canon for ultra high-speed photography, and do some videos.
That would be interesting to watch.
That would be interesting to watch.
And then we could make it some science instead of just numbers on paper. Because that's what it's all about to me, and I know perception is not really a good way to measure anything because mine might be different than yours. So take my opinion. And accept it as truth.
I think that the black backlight bleed and the darkness of the black was better on the Dell, but it's worth mentioning that the Dell,
the backlight bleed is on the Shimeon is noticeable, and it is also noticeable on the X-Star, but not really so much on the Dell.
Yeah, the Dell's able to do really black blacks. I think it is worth noting that the Dell's not LED backlit. This is one of the older ultra sharps that uses the CCFL. So.
You don't really see that anymore.
No, you don't.
It makes them warm.
Yeah, we need to get some of the ultra sharp, the 2013 model. That would be good.
If you're living somewhere that's cold and you don't really have heating, a Dell could be a great way to go if you need a heater and you want to play games at the same time. Because they get pretty warm.
All those monitors got pretty warm, except for the X-Star. The X-Star really didn't get warm at all.
A Samsung panel.
Well, it is 12 volts. The Shimeon is 24 volts.
All right, so if you're crazy like us, what you guys should be doing right now is grabbing 3 or 4 of these Korean monitors. They're ridiculous. There's a link in the description to a seller that we recommend. We've purchased from a gazillion different sellers out there. There's one seller we've purchased from like 15, 16 times now. So there's a link in the description straight to him, and stuff comes in like 4 or 5 days. I mean, it's like it comes from Korea faster than stuff comes from like Oregon.
We've
like,
ordered about 20 at this point.
Yeah, and then get 2 of these, 2 of them. And send us pictures. And
you could get 2 Titans, but the 780 is a better buy.
Yeah, it is a better buy. I mean, the Titans are like 3 or 4 frames per second faster. Put them together, you might get extra 5-6 frames per second. For the money, I mean, it's like twice the money. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't add up.
Get 3 780s instead of 2 if you're going to buy 2 Titans. But
hey. Send us pictures and I'll put it on the tech. All right, so that's all this video. Subscribe. Let us know what you thought of this ridiculousness, and I'll see you next time.